Home prices about to crash? Let's talk about it. Hello, everybody. Joe Orbit coming at you. And frankly, I am sick and tired of the media over-exaggerating what is actually going on in the economic world. If you take a look at some of these headlines, 52% of home prices falling. Is a crash about to happen? Are we in a bubble? Is this economy about to burst? Are home prices about to fall? I would say no on every single account. In fact, if you look deeper into the article that I just mentioned about 52 to 53% of home prices falling, all they're saying is that there are certain home values in certain cities where people are pulling their houses off the market because they're not getting the price they were hoping to be getting. And frankly, that's probably just out of greed, because if we look at the history of home prices, and the best place to do that is the Case-Shiller Index, we can see that over the last 10 years, home values have increased over 90% in this country. That is a huge increase in the cost of homeownership. And along with that increase in the cost of homes, we've seen mortgage rates skyrocket due to inflation. Now, fortunately, Powell is beginning to pull the Fed funds rate back, and we have seen it drop into the upper threes, 3.75, around that area. But we have not seen the 10-year Treasury drop enough, and the 10-year Treasury is the basis for the 30-year and the 15-year mortgage rate. So what we're seeing right now in America is the average mortgage rate is between 5.5 to 6.25, which is pretty high when you add into that a 90% increase in home values. Now, we have seen home values fall back a little bit, so some of these articles are not exaggerating. We did see home prices fall by about 0.6%. So really not a big change. If you look at the 10-year, you can see that home prices went up 90%. In the last few months, they've fallen back. They've fallen down by about 0.6%. So we are seeing some relief. But the overall cost to buy a home in this country has skyrocketed. 10 years ago, a new home cost about $289,000. Today, it's over $400,000. And at the same time, as I said, we saw mortgage rates go from 4% 10 years ago. They're right around 6% today. So if you break out what it actually costs to buy a new home, 10 years ago, $289,000 home, 4%, that's about $1,379 a month for your mortgage. Fast forward to today, $410,000 house with a 6% mortgage. We're looking at about $2,453, or a 78% increase in the cost of the median house. And at the same time, yes, we've seen incomes increase. So 10 years ago, the average household income was around $60,000. Today, that has increased to $84,000, but that's only a 40% increase in income. And the cost to buy a new home has increased by 78%. So in this current economic environment where home prices have skyrocketed and mortgage rates are high, probably isn't a good time to buy homes. And that's why we've seen home sales fall. That's why we're seeing in major cities, the costs of houses drop back a little bit, nowhere near the equivalent to the 90% increase we saw in housing. But at the same time, that is a pullback because people can't afford houses. In fact, 27% of all home purchases right now are done by investors. However, if we were to see mortgage rates fall back to 4% where they were 10 years ago, then that same home price that went from $289,000 to $410,000 and incomes that went from $60,000 to $89,000, the increase in the cost of the home at a 4% mortgage today would be right at that 40% increase. So incomes went up 40%, the cost to buy a house would go up 40%, but all we need to see is mortgage rates go from that 6% down to 4%. Will that happen? It should, because we are expecting to see Powell continue to lower rates. Now, is this going to happen next year? Maybe not. Maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll see mortgage rates fall back to that 4 to 5% area. The problem I see, though, is when that happens, I think the demand is going to skyrocket. And since there are so many young people who need to buy a house, we're going to see the cost of houses yet again increase. So when's the best time to buy a house? When you can afford to. You have to look at your income, you have to look at your expenses and figure out, does it make more sense to buy a house or rent? In my next video, I'm going to show you why currently you're better off renting than buying. However, if we can get mortgage rates to fall down to that 4 to 5% area, you'll be better off buying than renting. If you like videos like this, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so YouTube notifies you when I post another video. And as always, I'll see you next time.